Alright guys, in today's video we have some more PlayStation 5 news and information to go over and discuss here, and I think you guys are going to be pretty interested in what we talk about because it seems that there is a developer who has recently come out and talked about the PlayStation 5, more specifically talking about the overall power of the console, talking about the SSD, ray tracing, and also something called Texel Density, which they actually praised the PlayStation 5 for. And for those of you who don't know what that is, we will talk about that in this video and I will explain what it is. And overall it sounds really good, it sounds really promising, and it really makes the PlayStation 5 sound like a very high performance, very powerful console. So we're going to go over that. We're also going to be talking a little bit more about what AMD recently had to say about the next generation consoles during their investor presentation, where according to AMD, everything is on track and these next generation consoles will not end up being delayed, which should make a lot of gamers happy. So we're also going to be talking a little bit more about that. So do me a favor, be sure to hit the like button on this video. It really helps the videos out more than you know, and it is the easiest way for you to show your support here. And be sure to hit the subscribe button as well. Says here, the developer behind the upcoming Martha is Dead has extolled the PlayStation 5's beefy horsepower, in particular highlighting its Texel Density capabilities, something which hasn't been spoken about before. Speaking with the latest issue of official PlayStation Magazine UK, April 2020, LKA's studio head Luca Dalco revealed how the console's technical capabilities allow for the studio to create eyeball-popping visuals, especially when it comes to horror games. PS5's specifications are incredibly exciting. Particularly for us is the additional graphical power and the inclusion of ray tracing architecture. Our studio has come a long way over 4 years, and Martha is Dead will strive for photorealism. We're excited to see the next generation hardware incoming to support us bringing our vision to the players. We worked a lot harder to use the highest resolution textures as possible also on PS4. Nonetheless, PS5 will allow us to use an incredible Texel Density up to 4096 pixels per meter. That means the visuals will be fully detailed also in higher resolutions. It's one of the most important advances in visual capacity that we were waiting for. Dalco also touched base on the PS5's SSD, adding high-quality assets are naturally larger in size, so will benefit from the faster load times. The topic also shifted to ray tracing, which Dalco described as an incredible technology for independent studios, allowing games to reach new levels of realism without the need for huge teams. So, yeah, some really good stuff here that this developer is saying. I have to admit, I've never heard of this game, although it does sound intriguing to me because I'm always interested in horror games, but this is an independent studio where they are praising the PlayStation 5 for its overall power. Obviously, they're talking about the SSD, and they're reiterating that if you are a developer who is planning to reach these high levels of photorealism, the SSD is going to help a lot to just, keep all of that flowing smoothly. We all know that the SSD is going to make a big difference in these consoles, and it's a big selling point for both Sony and Microsoft. And on top of that, they're talking about ray tracing. This is something we've also been hearing about, and it's always nice to hear developers praising the ray tracing capability of the PlayStation 5, because there have been some people who have really kind of made it sound like the PlayStation 5's ray tracing is not going to be very good, or it's going to be subpar. But here we have a developer saying, no, it's actually really good, and apparently it's something that they're excited for. But him talking about the Texel Density, what is Texel Density? Well, the best way to describe this is it's basically how good a 3D asset is going to look. And they call it Texel instead of pixel because when you're looking at something that's 2D, it's called pixel. So you talk about pixel density, overall resolution. Texel density is essentially the same thing, just applied to a three-dimensional object. And so essentially what it comes down to is we are going to see assets and game worlds and everything that's in these game worlds be so much higher resolution, so much higher fidelity, probably higher than we've ever seen before, obviously, on a console. And so it's very interesting because, as this article points out, we haven't really heard any developers talking about this, but according to this developer, this is a big thing that they've been waiting for, and it's a big strive forward for overall visual fidelity with games, and they are particularly excited for it. And it's interesting because they are striving for photorealism, and while they are releasing this game on the PlayStation 4 and they're going to bump everything up as high as it can possibly go on the PS4, it really sounds like their game, as well as pretty much every other game, is really going to shine on the PlayStation 5. Now, I don't think this game is a PlayStation exclusive or a timed exclusive or anything like that. I think it is a multi-platform game, so it's really interesting. As far as I know, I could be completely wrong about that, but if that is in fact the case, then it is very interesting to hear a third-party developer speaking this way about the PlayStation 5. And it's, as I've been telling you guys, the PlayStation 5 is going to be a very powerful console, and anybody who has any fears that it's not going to be capable enough or it's not going to really feel like a next-gen leap forward, you don't have to worry about that. It will 100% be a next-gen console that feels like a massive leap forward compared to what we currently have. So there you go. Some really high praise about the PlayStation 5 from a developer who's been working on a game for the PS5 apparently. But moving on from that, we're going to be talking about the next-gen consoles and how they are still on track to release in holiday 2020, according to AMD. Says leading semiconductor company AMD said during a financial presentation that the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series console are on track to release in fall 2020. Due to the spread of the virus and resulting supply chain delays, there were concerns that Sony and Microsoft wouldn't be able to meet manufacturing deadlines. However, AMD has said that that will not be the case. A month ago, financial services company Jefferies Group wrote a note to investors warning them of potential supply chain delays due to the virus. The note indicated that prolonged delays are likely to disrupt Microsoft and Sony's plans for the holiday 2020 launch. However, other industry analysts, including Michael Pachter, noted that console manufacturers still have time to adjust to the situation, giving them room to make contingency plans. I think Sony and Microsoft will quietly arrange for production in Taiwan and Vietnam at the cost of maybe $5 to $10 per unit more at most, just to be safe, Pachter predicted. That said, it can't be denied that the virus has had quite an impact on various industries, especially consumer electronics and the game industry. Companies with more immediate plans have particularly suffered as they scramble for backup. Neither Sony nor Microsoft have commented on these reports, but we will keep our readers posted. So there you go. I mean, AMD, the thing you have to pay attention to about this investors presentation is it's a presentation to the investors. If there was really something that AMD knew, or they honestly thought or believed that these consoles really were going to end up getting delayed, they would have hinted at that or just outright said it, because they're talking directly to their investors, and you cannot risk lying to them or giving them bad information or anything like that. It's a very serious thing when companies talk to their investors. And so if you have AMD out here saying that everything is on track, then it seems that we don't necessarily have to worry about either of these consoles getting delayed. And in my opinion, that's a really good sign. That's good news, obviously, as somebody who is very excited for the PlayStation 5 and the next generation consoles in general. The last thing I want to see is them get delayed. It would just be a bad thing in general. However, it does seem highly likely that if you are somebody who wants to get your hands on one of these consoles day one, or maybe within the first couple weeks of launch, you're going to have to make sure you pre-order that, because it seems like there might be a supply problem. Now, we don't know for sure. There might not be. Again, as Michael Pachter said here, or predicted, he believes that there's enough leeway, enough time left for both Sony and Microsoft to have contingency plans to plan ahead for this and kind of figure out what they might have to change up in order to make sure that they can meet that demand. But nonetheless, I mean, if you were to ask me what I think is going to happen, I do think there will be a supply shortage to some extent. It might not be that extreme, but it's still something that if you absolutely need to have one of these consoles day one, you need to make sure you pre-order it. And I know that there are some websites right now like Best Buy and GameStop that have their pre-order pages up where you can't actually pre-order the console yet, but you can be notified by one of these websites or one of these stores, retailers. They'll let you know as soon as pre-orders do go live, so you can be one of the first ones to make sure you secure yours. Obviously, that's something I plan to do. I hope to do. I certainly don't want to see a situation where we flash forward to holiday 2020 and these consoles are launching and I can't get my hands on a PlayStation 5. That would be incredibly disappointing. So hopefully that won't happen. And yeah, I just thought this was worth talking about because there's a lot of people that I've seen kind of getting the idea in their head that it's guaranteed these consoles are going to be delayed. While it's not guaranteed either way, it's not guaranteed that they will hit that 2020 launch date. It's also not guaranteed that they will get delayed. It's interesting to pay attention to what AMD is saying because, again, if they had any inclination, if they really thought that this was a high possibility or a really good chance that they could get delayed, they would have said something. They wouldn't have just flat out said like everything's on track. They would have at least said maybe, oh, everything is on track currently and we don't but we need to anticipate things changing or something along those lines. So there you go, guys. That's going to do it for this PS5 update video. Hopefully you did find it informative. Hopefully you did enjoy it. At this point, I'm going to ask you to let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. What do you think about this developer and what they had to say about the PlayStation 5, praising specifically its Texel Density, as well as the overall power and the ray tracing, the SSD? Does it get you even more excited for this console? And what do you think about AMD basically letting us know that everything is currently on track with these consoles to release in holiday 2020? I will be very interested to see what you guys have to say. Be sure again to leave the video a like if you did enjoy it, subscribe to the channel if you're new and haven't already, hit the bell notification icon so you never miss an upload, and feel free to share this video out on top of all that. But until next time, guys, take care.